Okay, welcome, welcome. So I'm really excited about this particular panel with Idalina, Denitha, Abiola, and Cindy, and hopefully Trudy of LeBron will be able to join us a little bit later. Cindy's also going to be hopping on a little bit later. But this particular panel is all about financial freedom and making powerful decisions. And some of the subtopics that we're going to be diving into a little bit later are super juicy. You're going to hear from all of the incredible women who are here with me. And when Cindy and hopefully Trudy join us, this is a panel of 6 and 7 figure ladies. And we just all happen to also be women of color, and hope that you get a lot of value just from the transmission of being here with us. We've been talking about in the last couple panels about the power of who you surround yourself with strongly influences your own personal kind of glass ceilings, mind, body, and wealth. So we're here to link up and rise up together. And this intention for this panel is really about sharing wisdom and expanding past our glass ceilings together and co-creating in up-leveling all of our conversations around building our wealth and growing financially. So, yay. So what I'd like to do, I'm going to go ahead and just have each of you introduce yourself, Denitha, Abiola, and Idalina, or really whatever you just want. You just want the women who are here with us to deeply know about what you're creating in the world, and touching on any reason why you wanted to be a part of this. So take it away. I'll start with Abiola, and welcome.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Dr. Abiola Oladoke. It's exciting to be here again today to see all your lovely faces and to be on the panel with you. I am a entrepreneur. I have been a business owner since the age of 13, seizing business opportunities here and there. And I'm fortunate to actually do the things that I love to do and to share my joy and my expertise in the areas of health and wellness, and also just some other fun entertainment, things like putting people's faces on live plants and flowers and brightening up their day. And I also get to help veterans because I am a vet, and it's exciting to be here. I am looking forward to sharing what I know and how I have been able to actually transform and transmute a lot of different things that could have been obstacles that stood in my way, and took them as challenges and use them to actually help me rise up. I'm excited to share that with everyone, and hopefully, help other people lift up and rise up so we can all be at the top together.
Gorgeous, Abiola. And did you share about your royal lineage?
No, yes, I am also from royalty, in Nigeria.
So. She's a real life princess, for really reals. I just want to bring that in because we were talking about lineage.
Yes.
And the kind of the not true lineage, but like the really going back lineage of the wealth of Africa and the cultures there, and kind of tapping into that. That was a really beautiful conversation. So I just wanted to bring that in. We're sitting with royalty. Awesome. Welcome, Cindy. I've got you here as a co-host with us. Thanks so much for being here. We'll have you introduce yourself in just a moment while you can just kind of settle in with us. Idalina, I'll have you go next.
Okay, thank you. Well, beautiful to be able to be with fellow women, powerful women, women of color, women of different backgrounds and industries. And I myself have a social media company, and I believe that whatever it is that we're doing as far as in our businesses or how we're profiting from our passions, I believe that whatever it is, whatever industry we're doing, whatever services we're providing, it's really an expression of ourselves. And I believe that for me, business just happens to be a vehicle through which I grow spiritually, emotionally, grow as a person. And it's I think that's the way it is for a lot of business owners, and especially entrepreneurs and spirit-led and purpose-led business owners. So my team and I actually create content for the companies who don't want to do it themselves, business owners who don't want to do it themselves. And we allow other businesses to express themselves and the way that they and support them in expressing themselves. And I believe, again, our business is just that vehicle through which we're growing and as a part of our spiritual path. So I'm really excited to be here, and I look forward to what we all share here together.
Thank you, Idalina. I'll just speak to one piece because I know today we're kind of giving like the tips, we're like dropping the like concrete, here's how tips. And I just want to say for myself as a business owner, it has been a huge learning on like, where is my genius and how do I want to show up in my business? And what do I want to hire other people for that is their genius? Social media is not what I want to like. I don't want a PhD in social media. Of course, I'm going to hire someone awesome like Idalina, that is her genius, to take care of that for me. So I just want to speak to this mentality that women especially kind of go into, where we try to do it all ourselves. And sometimes it's necessary, but we get to a certain point, it's like, how can we delegate so that we can show up in our, we can show up brilliantly. So just speaking to that, so glad you're here, Idalina. Awesome. Denitha, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be a part of this panel and to connect with all of you and hopefully share some wisdom today. My name is Denitha Doe. I'm the creator of Money and Mimosas. We are a financial education multimedia platform. We started about 5 years ago and now are read by tens of thousands of readers in over 45 countries. And we cover information around savings, investing, and my personal favorite, which is the spirituality behind money. Money has been something that I've been, I feel I have a deep connection with. I wrote my first poem at the age of 6, and it was about money. And it's been my biggest teacher on this journey of becoming a woman. So I'm really excited to be a part of this conversation and hopefully share some of my backgrounds and perspective on how we can use money to create our best lives.
Awesome, gorgeous. So happy to have you here. So perfect for this particular panel as well. It's really nice to reconnect with you in this way, Denitha.
Thank you, likewise.
Yeah. Awesome. And Cindy, welcome. You hopped on a few minutes later, which is so perfect timing. And I had just said before you got here that this is like a lot of the women involved in this project who are part of these panels are 6 and 7 figure ladies. And this particular panel is we're all 6-figure, multiple 6-figure, 7-figure earners, including you, of course. And so it just, so happy to have you as part of, lending to the opulence and bringing your transmission and your message. So great to have you back, Cindy. The floor is yours.
I love being in a container of opulence. Doesn't that feel yummy? Yeah, so I'm thrilled for today's topic. Like I love the power of decision. And I believe that it's really been the cornerstone of my success throughout my entire life, whether it's in my family, my personal life, and definitely in business. And so I'm Cindy Padilla. I am a sales and leadership expert, and my husband Jim and I own a company, Gain the Edge, and we are done-for-you sales team experts. And so I'm always in the realm of sales. Like I've had sales calls today already, and I love them. Like they're so fun. And they're all about decisions. They're about me coming with my true presence and intention to serve, stand in my power and my leadership, and help people make amazing decisions for themselves. And a lot, like you said, Idalina, what I've learned in growing our business is that it is a spiritual path. And one of the things that's really come up for me this past year or so is really unearthing the ancestral lineages of my past, and like realizing like that all has to be worked through as I continue to elevate and grow my own business and create a legacy for myself and my family.
And
Yeah.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
And I appreciate this piece about, because you're in sales and as an entrepreneur, I think most entrepreneurs in some place in their business have to do enrollment or sales. And I also have come to just really enjoy those conversations. They feel like the deep heart connections.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you're just presencing it in the positive, because it's easy to be like, oh, sales, and that's definitely one of the kind of the mindset, or I would say heart set shifts.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, really, I'm just going to drop in and deeply connect with this person and be present. And it's like sometimes a beautiful, even tearful exchange.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for just bringing the heart into right here in the beginning, into that piece of the conversation. Awesome. Thank you. Welcome. I'm so happy to be here. I just am like, my girls. I actually know Italina and Denitha more from initially from social circles, and then it's just been this lovely kind of parallel entrepreneurship path. And Abiola has just been like a delicious entrepreneurial sister. And then Cindy, also, you're kind of like one of those women I want to be when I grow up, although I think we're probably similar in age, but I just see what you've created and I'm just like, so inspired by you all the time. So I just feel like my heart is open right now, and we'll just, stay in our hearts and drop some wisdom. It's going to be awesome. So our first rabbit hole, if you will, conversation is around decision making. Oops, I actually accidentally sent that out. Let me text this to panelists so you just visually can see it. And it's almost two topics. There's the decision-making piece, and then there's the speaking to the freedom of the investing, growing, and saving lifestyle. I also meant to mention I'm Jessica Hadari, host. And I'll start by saying, as I didn't really learn anything about money growing up. I was kind of taught like, oh, you're a woman and you're pretty and you'll just marry someone who has money and you'll be taken care of. That was like a lot of the messaging was this very like 50s housewife kind of messaging. So everything I've learned has been as an adult. And even as my business was growing and becoming more and more financially successful, I still found myself almost like living month to month. I will still sometimes catch myself going back into old patterns of that. Because I just didn't really know anything about investing or growing or protecting or saving my money. So I would love to just open it up in a really practical way. Any bits of like if there was like one thing that you really wanted women to understand that like deeply was helpful for you around growing, investing, or saving, or decision-making, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I'll start. So I think a couple of things, one is if you have your own business, if you don't have a set paycheck that you're getting and, your business kind of fluctuates, one of the things that I've learned is to actually have multiple bank accounts, designated. So I have like different accounts designated for different things. So, for business tax, there's an account for that where, I can draw from to pay business taxes. There's an account to actually, that money goes into to pay myself, and everything is divided up by percentages. So whatever it is that that comes in every month, you then break everything down into those percentages. So all of the the bills that need to be paid, and including paying yourself, that everything is actually taken care of. And because as an entrepreneur, we have this, we can have businesses that kind of go this way. I'm still working on getting everything to be the same amount every month. But, they fluctuate just because of the nature of the businesses that I have. And it is like that with, probably every business, like sales kind of go up and down. But having those separate bank accounts, that you have percentages and having things go in there, then you have money to make up for when there's like a low month. Then you can actually, you have the buffer to take care of yourself and take care of everything, and not working from a scarcity mindset with, money every month. And that's been one thing that has really been very helpful, making that decision to do that, for my businesses, and actually have all this, multiple bank accounts. And it feels overwhelming having the different bank accounts, but, after a few months of actually having that practice of having the percentages go in there, then it doesn't matter how much money comes in. You can take $100 and split it into those percentages and make sure that every pot has, its gold.
Thank you. So it sounds like what you're saying is, like, let's say I have $100 come in, then I'm going to take, a percentage that I've already decided on. 25% goes here,
Yes.
10% goes here,
Yes.
and just kind of to faithfully do that
Yes.
anytime money comes in, to kind of guarantee that, like, this bill will be paid, the taxes, okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
There's operating expenses, there's everything, there's money for yourself, and I'm very, very picky with everything. I actually have, a wallet that also has like folders that, everything is there. Like, okay, this is where gas money is, this is where grocery money is. And I, to add the budgeting into it, and I just do that and put myself on, this budget and make sure that everything is taken care of. Because as a person that I run my businesses without any, loan from any company, I need to make sure that, there is money to actually keep the businesses going, and, to pay employees and take care of things that need to be taken care of, and to pay me without having to go, oh my God, I have to break into my savings and take care of that. Yes.
Gorgeous. Thank you, Abiola. I love just the practical nature of that. Beautiful.
I would say for me this year, one of the biggest lessons that really hit home was the importance of protecting your assets before you have to. So your assets are a really huge part of your net worth and your overall wealth. And I'll share a personal example and then give examples that may help anyone that's listening. So I had registered Money and Mimosas as a trademark 2 years ago. Before I even needed to, I just felt there was just this inner voice that said, go ahead and do that. And then this year, a publicly traded company used the trademark illegally. And thankfully, it had already been registered. I had retained an attorney, and they were able to win the case against this company, which helped protect the brand, help protect your intellectual property as a part of your net worth as well. And as an entrepreneur, at the heart, we are artists, we are creators, and anything you create is of value. Even if you say do YouTube videos and you've got a format that you've honed and mastered, that format that you created is something that you can license to another brand. And so protecting your creativity in a legal format can seem scary, but at the end of the day, it's going to be, you'll be able to defend yourself if needed, hopefully not, but at the very least, you'll be able to leverage it for an opportunity through licensing or through a deal with maybe a larger company that can pay you a lot of money for your creativity.
Gorgeous. Thank you, Denitha.
Awesome.
Okay, I'll just, Jessica, when you were talking about what was shared with you, the messaging that you received, it made me think of, I started my company 7 years ago, and naturally my first year was just struggle to bring in money. And I remember at the time I was with a partner, and even though there wasn't that consistency as Abiola was talking about, I still was like, I'm going to put $200 in a Roth. And my partner at the time was like, how are you doing that? We're struggling right now. But I think it's important to take even those little baby steps. So one, despite any messaging, do start with something, even if it's $50, $100, anything. Number two, I would say, I read a book, speaks a lot to what Abiola was saying. I read a book called Profit First.
Yeah.
And that's where I learned about the percentages. So naturally, with my second year of business, things were a lot better. In third year, things were exponentially better. So I just picked percentages. So whether it be 10%, 20%, I'm actually to the point where now I'm putting 45% away. So you put the percentages of where you want so that you can feel like I have money everywhere. So there's the taxes, that money is already, there's as everyone said, a pot. There's already an account for that. Keeping track of the accounts, thinking about that can sometimes be overwhelming, but it's like, hey, I got money everywhere. So you've got your tax bill already paid for, all the money that you set aside for different expenses. There's already a pot, an account for that. And then when the bills due, you're not stressed out. People are like, why aren't you stressed out right now? Your bills, your IRS, don't you have to pay? Yeah, but the money's been in there all year. So yeah, have those accounts, commit to a percentage. I'm not really picky as far as breaking it down super small into like gas and things like that, but it's the business account, the business account, my personal, obviously, and then what in the business account, that's what I pay employees, taxes, all that. So I just picked a percentage, no matter how much money comes in monthly, that amount goes into that account. And by the end of the year, everything just works out, and you're that much free. You have a spirit of abundance because you've got money everywhere. So I would just say commit to a percentage, make it happen.
Yes.
Gorgeous. Thank you. Cindy.
Yeah, I love that recap. We have money everywhere, all these pots of money. That feels good. Yeah, for me, listening to all you women, I took notes. So it's reminders of, always looking at our money and making sure we're really clean with it. For me, I think it starts with a decision to be prosperous, right? Everything that you all talked about requires that first decision. Like, I'm going to do things differently. I'm going to be prosperous. I'm going to always be well cared for. I'm going to leave a legacy. Yeah. So I love, and it's, as business owners, and you talked about, Abiola, is that our income will have its ebbs and its flows. And for me, it's still deciding every day, no matter what the bank account looks like, no matter what this month look like, I still decide to be prosperous. I still decide to stick to my commitments. So it's the decision over and over again that I think a lot of women and business owners sometimes forget. And I love that everybody shared, right? And I had to learn that, I learned it the hard way. I thought, well, I can't do a Roth unless I've got the $2,500 or, it's like, no, I could be putting $200 aside. I could be putting $100 aside. So realizing that everything adds up and becomes more and becomes plenty. For me, I have a few bank accounts that are out of sight, out of mind, like Minneapolis, like far away. So I literally have to call them, or I have to, go to a separate website. And so money goes in there directly for vacations. I love travel, so I put money aside for that. I do a Christmas fund. I learned that years ago, $50 a month. Come Christmas, I got $600 cash. It's a start, and we don't spend a lot on Christmas, so it's fine. But it's always, like I said, there's money. It's there. For us too, our business grew really fast. It was important to get an expert in quickly. I can manage my personal finances, but again, I didn't have the money expert. I didn't grow up. They don't teach you all that in school. And so we got a money expert quickly. And so Andrea is our CFO. She's been with us 3 years. So that's been a blessing. And she's, started as a commission specialist, then a bookkeeper, and now she's our CFO. She makes sure too that even what we offer has a profit. So every time we have a new offer, We have a meeting about it. Well, how much of it is your time, Cindy? How much is Jim's? How much of the team is going to be? How much resources? What's the profit? Because a lot of people just put price tags on things and then realize they're over giving and it's revenue, but it's not profit. So that was really important. And then last is tithing. It's real important for us to tithe. And it's a real act of faith and obedience as far as my, Christian, and it's an act of obedience and huge trust at times when you have upcoming tax bills, whether you do or do not have all the allocated sources put aside, payroll, everything. And you're like, here's my portion. Thank you.
Thank you so much for touching on the tithing. I'll speak to a couple of things that were said, and I'll turn it over to you ladies again. I have a friend who tithes 10% of everything that she makes, and she has a financially successful business. And I love that because, so many of us, we do our businesses or live our lives because we want to be of service. And so part of that, our desire, part of our drive for making money is to free us up to be more of service. And so it's like, I certainly have a dream of like being able to like donate to causes in like a really, really big way on a regular basis. And I love that she's just kind of built that into her. That's just one of the bank accounts, is this like philanthropy giving bank account. And she's able to donate every year to causes that she's really behind. So that's a powerful kind of add on to everything that was said. I love that each one of you named this one practice of just having these separate buckets. And the other thing I'll add on to that, because I've heard that many years ago. I think I went to like a Millionaire Mind workshop back in like my 20s, and they were talking about these different like jars or different buckets. And in my 30s, I just fell on really, really hard times due to illness, was on food stamps. So I just wanted to speak to that piece of like implementing these practices when there is a lot of financial stretch already happening, that there is something about just the mindset and the practice. It might be that you literally take $1 and stick it in one jar and another $1 and stick it in another jar. Like, I've definitely been in that point in my life when I was at kind of financial rock bottom, where it's like, I don't have like a lot of money to transfer from this bank account to that bank account. Eventually that grew into like, okay, I can do $40 a week. I can auto transfer $40 a week over into savings or over into like, my paying off my debt bank account. So I just wanted to speak to that because there might be women who are watching this who aren't ready for like taking 10% of everything they make and put it over here, but that it's the practice that is the powerful thing. Just staying with the practice, even if it feels like just, pennies or dollars, that's fine. There's actually is something really magical about the experience of having your money in a lot of different places. It feels more expansive.
Yes.
And it's amazing how quick that money actually grows. There's something really uplifting about being like, oh,
yeah,
I have $80 in that account, or I have $8,000 in that account, or whatever level you're at. It's the mindset piece and the practice that's so important. So I'll be quiet for a second. Love to open thoughts and other advice.
I love what you just said, right? And it's like I have $80 in that account. You're excited, or I have 8,000. Like I get excited for any amount of money, right? It doesn't have to be millions. I joke that like if I'm at a place and they're doing a raffle and it's gonna be a $10 gift card, like you would think I won $10 million when I get that gift card. Like I'm that excited. I stop and pick up pennies. We were hiking the other day. I'm like, a penny, and it's like I value money. I get excited about it, and it. Yeah, I'm thrilled that I put $100 a month in this one account, and it grows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we
It's
attract all
amazing.
oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Italina.
You sure? I was just gonna say, I think that energy, when you have that energy of, oh my God, money's everywhere, money's great, versus that, I'm broke, and like, what does that attract? The two is just too vastly different. So I just think having those different pots and having money everywhere, you're just freer. You walk around lighter, you're peppering your step, and then you attract more.
Yes. Yes. And I was going to add to, with, a little bit, there are apps now that are available that make it easy to actually take, change from your coffee and, start investing it. And I started playing with those apps a few, years ago, and it's amazing. You're like, oh my gosh, there's money in there. And it just makes it easier to invest, because I used to do stock markets a long time ago, and I would freak out and stress out about it and just drive myself absolutely bonkers. And then I was like, this is not healthy for me. Have to have somebody else do that. That is okay with worrying, because, I want to worry about other things. And I don't want to think about what the stock market is doing and sitting in front of the TV. But with those little apps, you are able to save a little bit and actually play in the stock market. And it's change. And so it's not like money that you're just putting there. You can do it with change. You can do it with $100. You can do it with $5. There's just so much that allows us to start to create that sense of abundance and prosperity, and to grow that, that little acorn. And actually one of the companies, I think the name is Acorn, take the acorn into an oak tree, literally. And it's amazing how fast, money can grow when we're actually doing these little practices and just seeing how that is possible. And just like Cindy said, having an account and leaving it alone. I have a couple of accounts in Texas, and I even said, I was like, I have to get on the plane to go there. Because, to get money out, I have to, there's a little bit of rigmarole that you have to go through to try and get money from an ATM. And I don't want to be bothered with it. So the money is just there, and you're just like, it feels good. Yeah. The distance. And then I don't feel tempted to actually, go into that account or try to use the money. And that keeps me within what I need to, to spend. And it just keeps me going. And I think because I've been able to do that, it's actually helped me to even start the multiple businesses that I now have. So that's one of the things that can happen when you have the mindset of having multiple businesses and just multiple streams of income. Okay, how do I do that without, going broke, asking the bank for money and owing everybody money? So that's a way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Any other practical tips? Because we're going to move a little more internal, not that we can't continue to just as they rise, name any practical practices or tips or tools. I'll add the Acorns app to the free list of free resources that we'll give out to the
Acorn, Stash, Robinhood, NerdWallet. I mean, there's a lot. There's like 4, yes.
Yeah, feel free to message me and I'll add those to the, yeah. Any other practical tips, tools, practices?
I was going to say, we've been talking a lot about saving. Another thing is, how much more can we make? And in that way, increasing our wealth. And what's so beautiful as business owners is we're free to create. It's not like we're stuck in a 9-to-5 job where this is our job description and that's all we can do. We're free to create. We can create whatever we want. So if you're like, yes, I want to save more, but also let's look at how can we make more? What else can you offer? What can you create? How can you bring of more value so that now there is that increased flow, plus you're being more of service.
Yes, I love that. How can we make more?
And I think that ties in with, because I imagine there are women who are listening who have jobs, and so the whole saving, growing, investing, it's like super relevant. And then probably a lot of women who are listening are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs. So I love this piece. And I think this ties in with who we surround ourselves with. Like I've definitely, when I first started my business, I was surrounded by a lot of starving healers, and it was just easy to kind of commiserate and just kind of, I don't know, like I definitely can see now looking back how hanging out with people who kind of all have the same complaints about money or what they thought they were capable of was definitely a factor in my own beliefs of what I thought was possible for myself. And when I more consciously started to be like, oh, well, she's really inspiring. I really feel inspired by what she's created and what she's created, and just started like cultivating these relationships with women who were maybe a couple steps ahead of me, hanging out in communities of people who were like taking the same risks as one another in their businesses, that just kind of automatically by osmosis expanded my own glass ceiling. Something really inspiring about it. Can be edgy too, though. Sometimes I think we will not hang out with people or communities because we might feel intimidated. I've certainly had that experience of like, oh, they're so fancy over there. I feel like intimidated. But I think I can use that in those kind of prickly feelings as fuel to be like, oh, actually that's like a signpost that I need to like take the leap and connect, because there's something there for me. There's something that new that wants to be reflected back to me. So I just wanted to name that community piece. That's part of the underlying intention of creating this, to just normalize conversations around women and wealth and what's possible for us. So yeah. I wanted to just check in and see if there are any other tools or tips before we switch gears into our next topic. Feel free to name them if you're like, oh, there's this thing that I just really like made a huge difference for me. Feel free to name that.
I think one thing that came to mind, it's not for saving, but, like think in terms of investing. I was having a conversation with someone about, how much do you need to start to invest in something, and what do you invest in if you're not thinking about stock markets or anything like that. And one thing that is becoming a big trend now is actually where you have regular individuals that are actually becoming lenders through these lending clubs. So that's another way to actually grow our money, is to give a little bit. And there are some that you can start with as little as $500. There's a real estate investment company that I'm actually researching right now, that you can start with as little as $500, and they take that and put it in the pool with other people's monies, and they actually, loan the money out to real estate developers, and you get a return on your investment, and you can just keep reinvesting that and grow that. There's a friend of mine that started with $10,000, and that's what got me interested. And I was like, and she's got like a 12% return on the 10,000. She got that in a year. So you can't get that from a bank. And and she's like, I'm not the one doing the work. They're doing the work for me, and I'm watching my money grow. And just she kept reinvesting it. But one thing she said was, you want to make sure that if you do lose that $10,000, it's not your entire savings. And so looking at this company, it's like, if you can start with $500 and you can think, okay, I can play with $500 and see what it grows with. And just let it continue to reinvest itself and grow. So there's other things like that as well.
That's interesting. Very cool. That's something you can make like a micro loan essentially, and then, or more. That's very cool. I like that.
To piggyback off of that, for baby steps, if investing is completely new to you, you're trying to build your savings. One easy way to, one way that a lot of people lose money is by having a savings account that has a really, really low interest rate. So this is the vast majority of traditional banks. The large banks, usually the interest rate is 0.01%, 0.06%. So check out a high yield savings account. These are typically online banks, so you can't actually physically walk into the branch. You can only engage with them online, and their interest rates usually hover around 1.5% to 2%. So you aren't going to make the 12% on an investment that you just mentioned, but it's much, much greater than the traditional savings account. So check out a high yield savings bank for your savings.
Awesome. Gorgeous. I'm making little notes for myself in the chat box over here. So our next couple, I'm actually going to presence, oh, that kind of got jumbled up in the little box there. Let me just put these here in the chat box for you. So I presenced both of the next topics because I feel like we could dive in. We don't have to go in order with these. One is really, this is interesting. This was the topic when all of the panelists came together and kind of voted on the topics that they most resonated with. This first one is overcoming the second-class citizen mindsets of scarcity. There was the word comparison, but we ended up using that somewhere else, of scarcity and hard work, etc. That was the topic that every single woman voted on. So this is like a power topic, and that all the panelists wanted to dive into this one. And so I just want to name that. What are like the abundance and wealth mindsets, and how do we overcome the second-class citizen mindsets of scarcity, hard work, etc. So we're getting a little bit more into mindset. And then the other topic is really just, I think can be related. How do we dance with all of the feelings that we are feeling just by living in these times, which for many people can feel like a very tense and kind of traumatized society. There's just so much intensity happening politically, societally, people who are dancing with PTSD from either their upbringing or circumstances in their lives. So there's just a lot of intensity. How do we dance with that? So I'll just kind of open it up for what kind of calls your heart and your mind, and what you'd like to speak to from your own experience. Oh, I'll also name that I think the second-class citizen mindsets really spoke to everyone because regardless of lineage, as women, we're all in the birthing pains of learning how to step out of some old programming especially around money, because it was like in my lifetime, I believe, or like right around the time I was born, it was still not possible for a woman to get a loan or a mortgage in her name without a male cosign. So even though I grew up in an era where women could eventually do that, my mother and her mother and all the messages I got from them were from a time where women did not have those rights or freedoms. And there's many different rabbit holes in that realm, especially when it comes to women of color. There's like additional layers to that for sure. So it's powerful. So anything that wants to be named.
I see it in sales. I see it in sales, women being challenged to make a bold ask, to make the offer, to ask for a lot of money, to stand in your value. I feel I'm a sales expert now. I wasn't 5 years ago. I would like sweat my way through them. Calls for $297 would go on for 90 minutes because I was like terrified of making the ask. And so that comes from, I grew up in corporate. So I was told how much I was going to make. I got my annual raise. There was really no room for negotiation. So negotiating and those skill sets weren't prevalent in my household from a female role model perspective, and definitely, not in the corporate world. So it was a big, a lot of learning, a lot of unlearning. A lot of unlearning. That's what it was.
Yes.
A lot of unprogramming and unlearning to stand in my value.
Yeah. I think for me, there's when it comes to thinking about scarcity. Like I never believed that there was anything that I couldn't have and that I couldn't achieve. Just because, and there's a spiritual, biblical aspect to my belief system that fueled a lot of this. And when I did come across obstacles, it was helpful that I had that initial thought process and mindset, believing that, in the Bible, like, one of the Psalms, it talks about the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. And I am a pastor's daughter and, grew up in church and sang. And so listened to the Bible, read it. I love all of the stories and I took them to heart. And so having that passage, and I just took that to mean that there is absolutely no resource that is not available to me. And growing up, I didn't have that many obstacles. Like I would go to my parents and ask for something. If my father or my mother said no, my mind was like, okay, it's no right now. I can come back and ask later. And I would pester my parents until they actually said yes. And it was the same thing with everyone in my family. If I wanted something, I would just keep asking until I got it. So I didn't get the roadblock of, it's shut down and you can't have it and it's not available to you at all. And when I moved to the United States and, started interacting with other people and talking about what I wanted to do, I actually encountered people telling me that's not possible. And I had to take a step back and go, who am I and who are they? And is that person actually in charge of my thinking, or who is in charge of my thinking? And with what Cindy was talking about with values, it then had to come down to what was more important to me. What were my values? What did I feel I was capable of? And one thing that came to my mind that really was very helpful, because being here by myself, not having my parents, I didn't have the buffer, I didn't have the support that I was used to having. But my father, I call him one of the greatest philosophers to still be alive, because he's very, very smart. And he's just got this philosophical way of living life and talking. And he said to me, and he said, there is nothing that anyone in this world can achieve that you cannot achieve. And he said, and as a woman, or as a girl, growing up, he's like, as a girl, you have a much bigger brain capacity to actually accomplish anything than anyone. And it's like, women are blessed with a bigger brain. And I was like, well, I don't know where you're getting that from, but thank you. So it really pumped up my self-esteem. And when, this person said to me, this is not possible, you can accomplish that. You're a woman and, you should get married, you should do this, you should. I just remembered what my father had said about me having a bigger brain than anybody. And I said, well, because I have a bigger brain, I can do anything. So it was very helpful with overcoming that second-class citizen that somebody else actually tried to put on me, because I never saw myself as that. And now I get to look at it from not just my own perspective, but from the perspective of others who did not have the kind of parenting that I had, who didn't have, parents that actually encourage you to be crazy, to go out there, to test boundaries and say, go, make the choice, see what the consequences are, and then figure it out. And, we'll be here to support you, and how that can actually affect everything that they accomplish. So I always tell myself, and I remind myself, and I remind my clients and my friends that you are limitless, that there is nothing that you cannot accomplish. And when somebody's saying something to you about what's not possible, it could be that they are projecting. And we did talk about that on the panel, yesterday as well, like with people projecting their thoughts onto us, that you need to recognize if it is theirs and to give it to them and let them own it, and you own what is yours by recognizing what your values are and what your worth is. And there's an exercise that I do where, and I teach my clients this, where we actually spend some time to figure out what our values are, and we monetize, our values. And if you have that in the back of your mind at all times, it helps when you come against, that roadblock of, this is not who you are, or this is not what you're capable of. And that can create that scarcity mindset to where you can recognize, hey, wait, I valued myself at, earning $1 million a year, of course, and that can kind of come into where you can say, oh yeah, okay, I'm just going to go back to that value mindset, rather than letting what this other person is saying or doing then become my truth, because that's not my truth.
Thank you.
So a lot of self-talk, and that's what I'm hearing, and that's what I found in my experience. And I also found that regardless of the level of success you reach, there still creeps in your mind thoughts of scarcity, and it's a matter of making a decision to go, okay, that happened, but that's not my reality. I have a friend who just sold one of his companies for $400 million. And he sent me a text. He was like, I keep forgetting that money is not an issue anymore. So it's like, regardless of this great abundance and wealth, those thoughts still, those limiting and scarcity thoughts still creep in. But it's a matter of us, whether it be via ritual or affirmations, reminding ourselves, as you can probably tell, one of mine is I have money everywhere. Like, I just love that. And that helps me remember that this is not an issue. This money thing is not an issue. And if we make it an issue, then it will be an issue. And it'll be even a greater issue. So self-talk, what are we saying to ourselves? Reminding ourselves that this is not something we have to worry about. If you've noticed, even when we've hit those hard times, and some stories have been shared here, we're okay now. We always come out the other side. I remember coming up, it looks like our fathers have played an influential role. I was 16, I was getting ready to go off for college. I went off for college at 17, and my dad said to me, all right, what's your biggest fear? He just came right out, he didn't warm up to the conversation. What's your biggest fear? I said, being a bum on the street. And it was funny that came out, because I never thought about it. It's not like I thought about this, but I just answered genuinely. And that's a thought that came to my mind. He said, well, you'll never have to worry about that. And guess what? I don't worry about that. And even when I left my career and started my company 7 years ago, and first year being awful, broke, I still knew, okay, I'm not going to be on the street. It's going to be okay no matter what. And every year it's just this exponential growth. So just that self-talk, whatever sentences that work well for you, for your affirmations, create them, write them, even if it's not a reality right now, create the affirmation right now, so that that does become your reality.
Yes. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I love that. Creating your own reality, and a lot of these points are around shifting our mindset from scarcity to abundance. For me, community, like you mentioned, Jessica, has been really helpful, connecting with people who are maybe a few steps ahead. Also, though, sometimes I couldn't find those people, whether it was because I just wasn't in the vicinity, they just were not in my orbit. So I would use the internet and watch MTV Cribs or watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians and just like expose myself to what's possible. Right now it's Christmas time, and so I've been listening to a lot of Mariah Carey songs and watching some of her interviews. And one of her Christmas traditions is to have actual reindeer at her home in Aspen and to invite Santa. And I didn't even know that was a possibility in life, to have Santa Claus come to my house. And now that's my new goal, is to be able to have Santa Claus come to my next Christmas. So just exposing yourself to what's possible really helps stretch your idea of what reality can be. And then you can start to act in that way, so that you can make that true for yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say, just real quick, just speaking to, kind of going back to my own experience in my early 30s of just kind of being at like super financial rock bottom on food stamps, etc. That it's the best advice that I got during that time, where I was just like so incapacitated with illness and like so financially stretched, was actually from a dear friend who basically, they said, Jessica, you need to dedicate your entire life right now to self-care. And I was like, what? No, I need to make money. I need to go, go, go. I need to do. I need to get. And something about the way that they said it over the course of that conversation had me really pay heed. And for me, that was a huge turning point, because I think what they saw was that in the financial stretch and stress, I was in such a ball of like contraction. And when you're in that, I think we've all had that experience of being like deep in stretch. There's this tunnel stress. There's this tunnel vision that happens where it's like, that's kind of all we're thinking about it. We're obsessing about it. It was even hard for me to be present with my child because there was always this like trying to figure it out, like mental looping and physical contraction, which certainly wasn't helping my illness, right? To be running those stress hormones, right? So it was just like bringing my energy down, bringing me down. There wasn't anything to figure out. That wasn't actually the solution. And what my friends saw was like, you need to kind of like reset your nervous system, because in that place of being like grounded and spacious and like, it automatically will give you more capacity. In that place of having more capacity, then like you're going to be more open to solutions, and you're going to be more willing to maybe like kind of grow and stretch in new ways that you just simply can't when you're just in like hardcore survival mode. Yes. And so I started just like dedicating my life to self-care. It ended up benefiting my health for sure, but just like simple things like taking baths, taking walks in nature, like things that didn't require any money, and just taking deep care of myself. And I just promised myself to engage in at least one act of self-care every day. And then it turned into 2 acts, and then it turned into these little micro acts. And that was just a huge pivot point to me receiving incredible ideas and downloads and just like answers to questions I've been holding. Like it came in that spaciousness, ideas about my business and like a capacity to stretch and grow in new ways. And that was really the turning point. It wasn't that long after that, maybe a year or 2 after that, that I had a sustainable 6-figure business, and then have been able to grow it since then. But that was the turning point. It was like deep self-care. That's what popped me out of my second-class citizen mindsets of like scarcity and hard work. I gotta kind of figure it out. So I just wanted to speak to that turning point for myself. I'd love to hear from any of you, any moments that were like, oh, I did this new thing that was different, and that really, really helped.
Similar. I mean, leaving corporate, I mean, it was a badge of honor to work 1 million hours. It was a badge of an honor to, survive on 4 hours of sleep and live on coffee and Snicker bars. And, I thought chocolate was a food group. I still think it is, but I don't indulge as frequently. Yeah. So I when I stepped away, I quickly realized that I had a few things to learn. I had only ever earned money being paid. I was a very highly compensated executive for Target. And I now see God's favor on that, because I wasn't the status quo Target executive. I wasn't white, under 30, blonde, blue-eyed with a degree. None of those. But I was still one of the highest paid executives in the stores. And but when I left, I did not understand how people earn money. Like I hadn't been taught. I'm like, well, how do people earn money? This is so interesting. And I had to quickly learn. So I'm like, we need money. How do we do this? So we sought mentorship. So that was huge. Finding the mentors and finding the right mentors that also taught the mindset and the belief that it's possible. And I love what you said, Denitha. It's about, we are creators at heart. And so I got to recognize my ability and my beingness in a creative space, and that I have the ability to create programs, highly valuable programs and offerings, and be of service. And I get the ability to create my experience you know, how do I want to live? How do I want my children to live? How do I want my children to witness me living? Right?
Yeah.
So that's been the mindset, and I had to learn self-care. I happily and joyfully jumped in the deep end of that pool, and I created a self-care routine that, you know, early on was like hours long every morning, and I've now learned to adapt it. But my care, my husband knows every morning when he comes out of the bedroom where he will find me. I will be in my chair with my Bible, with my reading materials, with my coffee, under a blanket, in my coat. Like, that's every morning. That's where he will find me. Because if I don't start my day grounded in my truth and connected to my source, nobody's having a good day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is my self-care that I know. And it's been a journey to realize who my true source is, that, you know, God, spirit source is my source, not my clients. And Jessica, when you say figure it out, like that is, I've been a figure outer for 50 years plus. Like I have to figure it out. And I'm really good at it. But I'm really working to, every day is a work, you know, to do less figuring out and more surrender and trust.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. I think the other thing too with that you have to work hard in order to be successful. That's the thing that, that I think we all need to work with in order to allow ourselves the freedom and to allow our minds to have the freedom to actually create and to come from a place of abundance. Because I think we can put this pressure of, if my business or if the job that I'm in, if I'm not working hard, then, I'm not performing. And with everything that I have created, I have a lot of fun with my businesses. I mean, it's so much fun. Even I work, I have 2 clinics where I'm helping people with debilitating health problems, and we still laugh about it. And it's not life-threatening. I mean, they can be, because I had people with cancer that they're like, oh my gosh, this is going to kill them. And you're like, not necessarily. Let's really back. Let's kind of see how we can come to the answer with this from a place of ease and not a place of hard work, and not a place of, this is going to be hard, this is going to be difficult. Because when we remove that sense of it's going to be difficult, or it's difficult to earn money, or it's difficult to create money, because I think as entrepreneurs, what we do is we create money. We can manufacture things out of thin air. Like with making up programs and saying, I've got this delivery and that delivery, and voila, you've got this awesome offering. So we're creators, very much so, and we're creating money. And when we start to think more of how to do that from a place of ease, and allowing ourselves, with that ease coming from self-care, because when we're taking care of ourselves, we can actually think a lot better, and we're less stressed, and we can see things a lot clearer. As a person that wears glasses, I tell people, if my glasses are actually quite dirty and foggy, I'm not going to see very clearly. So every once in a while, you have to take the glasses off and actually wipe them clean, and then you can go, there we go. And that's what the self-care and thinking work doesn't have to be hard. That's where those things come in, that it can help us to take a step back and really see what we want to see, and to be as productive as we want to be. And then it's a lot of fun to do that. And we're not thinking about hard work, or we're not thinking about, how am I going to get that? You just go, I'm just going to go out there and play today. One of the things I used to say to someone was, because they were like, well, what are your ambitions with money? And I said, oh no, I'm just working for my next zero. That's what I'm doing. I'm just thinking about my next zero. And they're like, what do you mean? And I said, well, I've made $1, I've made $10, I've made 100, I've made 1,000, I've made, like 10,000, 100,000. And I'm like, then just go for your next zero. And I said, if I only think about my next zero, then it's not so overwhelming, and it doesn't become that mindset of hard work in order to, get 7 figures or start working towards eight figures. It's like, yeah, that's next zero. It's a good problem to have.
Yeah. Well, we have a few more minutes. Any other kind of inner game or outer game strategy? I will name, just because, oftentimes in my world, I interface with women who are just brand new, baby new, starting their businesses. And sometimes there's a misconception that I'm just going to put my online program on Teachable and people are just going to magically buy it by the millions, or I'm going to be a coach or a therapist and I'm just going to create a Facebook business page and everybody's going to find me. Or there's kind of like I'm going to hang my shingle and the people will just come. And that's usually not the way it happens. So I'll just name like the pieces that were so foundational for me and actually creating a profitable business was number one, collaboration with other people who've already done the work of like gathering tribe, because it's a really powerful way, even without an email list, to just reach and kind of be established in networks beyond my own network. So collaborating, cross promotion, what I call tribal marketing. Also just like sales, which can be like making offers, like if you're teaching a webinar or giving a talk or a workshop, there's a bit of an art to saying, and now this workshop or this webinar or this talk, it leads to a natural next step. And then asking for money to be paid to take people on that next step journey. And also the art of enrollment, which is like the kind of more one-on-one, or I think of enrollment as group one-on-one sales, but it could also be group sales, which I just talked about. But yeah, like what do you say and what do you not say to a potential client? And what questions do you ask? And like what's the journey that you take people on to help them make a decision to be a yes to your product or your package or your service. So those are kind of the cornerstones that I find myself still perfecting. It's an ongoing evolution because I evolve, my business evolves, my message evolves. So I just wanted to name those pieces for the budding entrepreneurs who might be listening to this. But we'll open it. We've got about 5 more minutes. Any other tidbits of wisdom, Italina, Denitha?
I loved all of those tips. And I would say, to go back to your point, Dr. Abiola and Jessica, about working hard. And for me, this year has been there have been a lot of lessons about integrating my ambitious, driven self that I learned from my lovely mother. And I say that with reverence, because she did teach me a lot in terms of going out there, making it happen, depending upon myself to create financial independence. And then I got engaged this year, and this shift happened that I was not expecting, this desire to fall into more of a receiving mode. And this year, learning how to integrate that, I call it trophy wife, I call it, the arm candy, whatever words resonate with you. But that idea of like, it's okay to be that, what some people may call a 50s wife, or someone that allows the man to really take the driver's seat, really learning how to balance my go-getter self with that other side that I really do identify with. And if in the beginning of my business career, I'm not sure if that would have worked as well, because I did need to put in a lot of long hours to make things happen. And I respect the time that I had to put in the beginning. And now in this place, my business, so the tools that got me to where I am now aren't going to be the same tools that get me to that next step. And so I would say ultimately just recognizing where you're at, and that's my fiance behind me.
Hi.
Hey, fixing our heater, letting him fix the heater. Anyway, but like just recognizing what season you're in your life, I think it's really important, because in some seasons you are going to have to burn the midnight oil and do a lot of work. You may have to put in 16 hours a day. You may have to grind it out. And then there are going to be other seasons when self-care needs to be in the forefront. And And that shift, that transition can be challenging because it is taking on another identity, at least it was for me, to realize that I could make that shift, and it was okay. So just being gentle with yourself in whatever season it is, and recognizing that sometimes a different side of you may need to take the forefront.
Mm.
That whole term work hard, I found that giving it my own definition has been very helpful. So I don't work hard as in I have a labor job. I'm outside digging holes and working out in the blistering heat, anything like that. That's not the kind of hard, working hard. I've found that working hard for me simply means I put the time in. I'm putting time in. And the fact that I get to put time in doing something that I love, right? I created this job for myself. We all, as business owners, created our own job descriptions and tasks and responsibilities. I'm lucky that this is what I get to spend my time doing. So even if it's a task that I don't particularly love, I ask myself, okay, how can I bring joy to this? How can I bring the sunshine and make it fun? So make your own definition of what working hard is. And then even if you're doing a task that you don't exactly love, see how you can bring your own fun and spunk to it, make it work.
That's gorgeous. Thank you. Yeah, we were talking in one of the other panels about following your yum. If you're doing something you really feel passionate about, and everything's kind of in that envelope. So even when it's like, I have to do my bookkeeping, certain aspects, you kind of, even if you have a bookkeeper, you kind of have to be present to certain tedious aspects of your business, but it's all in the umbrella of a joyous creation. So thank you for kind of bringing it home to that.
Yes.
Yeah. Cindy, I saw you unmute yourself.
Yeah, we talk about the hard work, like my mother, just for decades has told me, you're such a hard worker. You and your brothers and sisters are such hard workers. I'm like, stop saying that. I want my own definition of hard work now, right? I want my own definition of success. For her, that was a definition of success, was that you're a hard worker. It was meant with a lot of love and love for me. So for me, it's even one of the values in our business we talk about. It's like, I complete a lot of important work each day.
Mm.
So we contribute greatly, we produce a lot of work, but it's important work. And then lately I've tapped into paying the price. It's paying the price of success along this journey. And I'm willing to pay the price of my dedication, my devotion, my discipline, my routines to reap those rewards.
Mm.
From a real practical standpoint, new business owners and continuing on expanding business owners, it's sales. Jessica, you mentioned earlier that it's always honing. I mean, Jim and I literally spent time on Saturday honing scripts. Like, how do we get smarter? How do we get more experiential in these conversations? What are some different questions that we can ask? I mean, the scripts I learned 5 and 6 years ago building our business, they're okay, but everything evolves. Marketing has changed. Buyers are more savvy. It's the investment in your sales process and understanding your entire business, everything you say and do and be is part of the sales process, and they're just embracing it.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say one thing with the dancing with overwhelm, anger, and guilt while living in a tense and traumatized society. One of the things for me is, I've learned, and I always encourage people to do this, to actually create your own, we talk about as business owners, as entrepreneurs, we're creators, but I take it to a different level with creating my own world, creating my own experience, and creating who I am and living in that, for lack of a better word, that bubble, instead of what is going on in the world affecting me and making my decisions and putting me in a place where my health feels tense and I'm losing sleep, is to actually think about who am I and what is the world that I live in and how do I want my world to be, and showing up in my world to other people And one of the practical things that is helpful with doing that and framing the world you want to live in is actually having a practice or a ritual of gratitude, and really doing that because my background is in neuroscience and psychology and functional medicine, and so I look at things from how it's also affecting neuroanatomy and how everything is playing into the world. And so being able to take neuroscience and apply it to something as simple as having a gratitude exercise, where we actually see on functional MRIs that it literally changes the structure of a person's brain when they have a gratitude practice. And that can make everything such as overwhelm, anger, guilt, suffering, feeling like I have to work hard, or just putting nose to the grind and going, it can make it a lot more joyful to do and keep the overwhelm down or even non-existent, where you're actually going, I do this with joy. So one of the things that I do is I wake up every day and I say, today, this is my day is going to be this way. Nobody is going to take my joy away from me, no matter what I encounter. So if I'm driving and somebody flips me off, I say, thank you very much. I hope you have a blessed day. Well, after I've actually flipped them off back, and then, but I've gotten a lot better. It used to be, I'm like, they flip me up and I flip them off. And then I was like, wait, people recognize my cars. I should not be flipping people off, because then people are going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Dr. Abiola did that. So then I put my finger down and I'm like, okay, well, I could flip you off, but no, I'm not. But, just going, no, wait, I decided that nobody's going to take my joy. And if I actually allow that person to do that, then I've given away, my joy, and keeping that. And that makes a big difference in actually addressing everything that comes up in my businesses and, in my relationships. It's just where I'm like, yeah, okay, this is doable. I can accomplish this and I can overcome and I can, make things happen because I have those gratitude practices and just knowing who I am and creating my world, just to kind of encapsulate all of that.
Yeah, thank you, Abiola. Gorgeous. I just want to name that we're at our official time. I'll stay on for a couple more minutes with anyone that wants to, just for some closing remarks. But panelists, you all contributed free gifts and resources that will be included with this video, and all the women who are participating in this project as well. So those will get to everybody who's watching this. And I just want to thank you for being here. Feel free to trickle off as needed. You can just, kind of go on your own way. I look forward to reconnecting with you. If you want to stay for a few more minutes, great. Yeah, it's been such a pleasure to have you here. I had my own kind of closing remarks, which touch on Abiola and Denitha. Abiola, I appreciate this gratitude piece, because sometimes it feels easier said than done to have a gratitude practice, or I don't know, sometimes it feels harder said than done. It's actually really easy, but it's just like, be grateful. Sometimes my own resistance of my own gratitude practice. But I wanted to speak to this piece because I watched the last couple of years as they're, politically decision makers or president. I've watched so many women go into overwhelm because they are overwhelmed by the stress of what they are seeing in the current climate. It's just like it has truly been one thing after another. And at the same time, there's part of me that's like, don't let that man pull you out of your center. Like, you can feel, we can feel the feelings, but there was a piece that you said of like, and there's this place where we can still stay in our center, stay connected to our purpose for being here, our, being of service to our clients, being connected, present with our families. The decision to not let that man or those people pull us out of our center, that's been a really powerful kind of decision that I've made. And then I wanted to just give like a little other side of the coin of what Denitha was saying. So there is, when you're first building a business, there is like a lot of determination, and like she was saying, sometimes, working these longer days, etc. I started building my business when my son was really little, so I couldn't do that. It's like he'd come home from school. It's like, okay, now we're in family time, and really drawing a hard line of like, there's work time, and then kid gets home from school, and now there's family time. And that line in the sand for me was also one of my biggest, for me, kind of productivity catalysts, because having that like hard cutoff at this time and there's no wiggle room had me be way productive, way more productive during my actual work time. So one thing that's worked for me is actually having constraints around my time sometimes mean that things unfold a little bit more slowly than if I didn't have that constraint. But I find that I'm clearer, more present, and more productive because I have this limited time. As my son's gotten older and that area's gotten grayer, I've actually found that I actually spin out a little bit more. So I've had to kind of reinstigate just for myself, kind of, like promises to myself about the amount of time I'm going to work each day or the days I'm going to work, and really stick to that. So I just wanted to give kind of the devil's advocate, like a yes and, just in service to our conversation about like what's worked for us in growing our wealth or growing our income. Yeah. Any closing comments from anyone else? And of course, if you need to take off, please feel free to give a little wave.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. It's been a pleasure being with all of you. I took notes. I feel wealthier, so thank you. It was just a really great panel, really elevated conversation. So thank you, Jessica. Just a beautiful circle. Thank you.
Yeah. Likewise, gratitude.
Yep. I just want to say thank you and take off.
Yeah.
Bye.
Mwah.
Thank